Hey everyone, John Garrett here, and this is a next level spotlight series, and we're going to be talking about something a little different that I do with my forward facing sonar, and that's using a Rage Hawk and a Rage Bug. We'll be talking about the tactics, mechanics, and strategy behind using these two baits. The tactics behind these two baits, the Rage Hawk and the Rage Bug, it's a little different using forward facing sonar because traditionally this is a bait you think of flipping shoreline cover, but I'm using that to do the same exact thing I'm doing on the bank, but I'm using it with my forward facing offshore. I'm using it in heavy cover, brush, stumps, man-made crappie mat, that kind of stuff. And it's really effective because I can make long, accurate casts and present my bait really well with using just a simple Texas rig. Yeah, so the mechanics behind using this specific bait and other soft plastic baits using forward facing sonar is I like to use a Team Lose Signature Series. It's a medium heavy rod with a fast tip, and that's really important because it has a fast tip. I'm able to be very accurate even though I'm offshore making the correct cast, but that medium heavy rod has enough backbone that I could really drive a hook home. Like I'm using a pretty big hook here, a 4/0 hook, and you need a little bit of meat to drive those big hooks home. Yeah, so the strategy behind these two baits, which I feel like is the most important, when I'm going to be using these is when I'm offshore, using my forward facing, of course, and I'm targeting more so bluegill eaters, which happens a lot, especially post spawn, early summer to late summer, even all the way into fall. You get a lot of bluegill eaters offshore, and we tend to think of shad and bait fish oriented stuff using our forward facing sonar, but that's not always the case. More than half the time I feel like they're feeding on bluegill out here, and a Rage Hawk and a Rage Bug are just awesome baits to imitate bluegill. Especially when when you're approaching a brush pile or whatever that is, you'll see bluegill around, and man, it's really important to, everyone says it match the hatch, but I think more importantly to be natural presentations, a non-intrusive presentation. These baits have really good appendages and they're kind of compact. So they have a lot of drawing power because the appendages and the Rage Tail technology, they kind of flap around, but they're that small profile. So they're non-intrusive. They match the hatch of a really small bluegill, and man, it's a really good presentation to get bit using forward facing sonar when everyone else is using shad imitating baits. There we go. Come off. No, it didn't. There we go. I caught one, bub. There's one. Nice one. That was pretty cool. He's right in the middle of that tree and just flipped dead center right in the thick of all of that. And just kind of hopping around, he just barely grabbed that thing. It's real hot, 88-degree water temperature, and just not moving a whole lot. So I had to get in there and really soak my bait around. He's at the very bottom of that tree, like 8 foot of water. But yeah, it's a nice one. We're using our live scope, a kind of a non-traditional method. So as I approach this tree, just a really big, thick pine tree, and like you see, as I scope from out in the middle towards a tree, you'll start seeing right there all the brush and interference that this tree has to offer. Now, where it looks like is the best part of the tree, it's really not, because you see just the top of the branches here, but what you want to do is right in here where it starts to get real thick, you get the base of those branches. So even though I'm visually looking at this target, I'm using my live scope to help me break this massive piece of cover down. So it's really gonna work out nice. So we got the main part here, and then the trunk is actually out here where there's no limb. So I'm making a very high percentage cast here without having to get in and disturb all these branches and lose the opportunity of catching one. So I'm gonna start out here where I could not visually see the target, I could see on my live scope where all these thick branches are. And as you kind of get centered up here, there's actually a hole. I'm assuming where this tree has fallen over, kind of a root system. And I'm going to pitch right in the middle of that and go right down in that hole. So using, like I said, in another non-traditional manner, but we're using our forward facing to help us break down visual pieces of cover. So it's just another way to use this tool to help us break stuff down. I got another one. There we go. So like literally as I was just, that's another good one. As I was just talking, like had this huge tree, and where this tree has fallen over, there's a hole in the ground. Literally where the roots have up pulled from the bottom, and I saw that on my forward facing, flipped my bait in there, went right in that deep hole. It's where all the shade, deeper water, it's a lot cooler in that hole for that fish. And using the forward facing to break down visual cover. Hey everyone, I hope y'all learned something today about the Rage Hawk and Rage Bug using your forward facing sonar. It's a little different, but that's what this whole Next Level Spotlight series is about. It's about little tips and tricks and stuff that all of us pros have learned over the years using our forward facing sonar. So if you're watching this video, make sure you watch the rest of the Spotlight series to learn as much as you can, help you catch more fish on the water.